One of the things I've always enjoyed about exploring lore and stories of games and movies have always been the smaller details. The way they portray characters, the connections between them, the events, and how it leaves an emotional impact on the viewers. There are certain shows and movies that are really good at tugging on the emotional strings of the viewers and the players. When I started playing Final Fantasy XVI, I have always said that it was a game presented like a movie, and it was due to just more than just the visual and the sound design, as well as the cinematic triggers during battle. How much Square Enix has invested in the smaller societal norms of Valisthea I think left me just as much of an emotional impact as how the main characters have had to go through during the games. In the past, it was often pivotal to keep main characters alive to the end in order to maximize their impact on the game's story. But in recent games, we have had a couple of main characters, ones that we have developed an emotional connection to, die partway through the story but leave a very massive impact. As we explore the lore of Valisthea, we learn about a group of humans that have lived in society. These people in Valisthea cannot perform acts of magic without the use of crystals, often extracted from the mother crystals found in the cities throughout the land. However, there are those who can equip magic by simply focusing their energy into the act of the magic that they want to do. These people are called bearers, and unfortunately they are also the most prejudiced throughout the entire land, with most cities using them for intensive labor and subjecting them to harsh punishment and treatment. In fact, this type of societal norm has lasted for hundreds of years. How did this come to be? How did the bearers suffer this fate? Was there an event that led to this societal norm? And why are bearers subjected to such harsh punishment? Welcome back to the channel. I have been enjoying Final Fantasy XVI lately, and exploring the different parts of their lore and detail have been very interesting to me. I think Final Fantasy XVI is going up there as one of my favorite games in the entire franchise. During the making of this video, I have just currently bought the DLCs for the game and will be planning to venture into those once I finish the main story. Now, without further ado, let's explore the topic as to why the bearers are the most prejudiced in all of Valisthea. We know that a common theme in the world of the Final Fantasy games is the use of magic. Of course, each game has its own unique set of rules when it comes to the usage of magic. For some worlds, only major characters can use them, as it would fall in the rarity of the use of magic. In others, only those trained in the arts can use them. In Valisthea, the use of magic is seen as uncommon, as many of those in its modern society rely on the use of mother crystals and the crystals that fall from them in order to perform acts of magic. However, there are those born with the ability to use magic without having to draw energy or ether from the mother crystals. These are the bearers. It is unfortunate that the bearers are treated very poorly in Valisthea's society, with many of them seen as nothing more than servants to the common eye. While this prosecution of the bearers can be traced back to nearly 1,000 years ago, this timeline's starting to sound kind of familiar, the bearers used to be worshipped and revered, as many of Valisthea's citizens back then would consider their ability as a gift from the heavens. However, after an event known as a deluge of blood, likely an uprising attempt either through warfare or other means took place, the creation of the Continental Accord happened, which designated bearers as abominations and non-human. As a result, the established kingdoms treated them as such, often making them do menial tasks such as healing wounded soldiers, keeping produce cold, healing others, lighting up areas, and other tasks, very often with little to no thanks, most of the time being subjected to further scorn. It is likely that the creation of the Continental Accord that established the status quo stemmed out of fear and jealousy by the common people because of their inability to use magic in the same way the bearers could. So by heavily limiting their status in society in the coming years, they could prevent another uprising of a similar nature by the bearers. Thus, the persecution of bearers began. Depending on which kingdom you visit in Valisthea, they treat bearers differently. I would say the Empire of Sanbreque is where you see the most prosecution of the bearers, simply because a good chunk of Final Fantasy XVI story takes place there. While Waloed also does treat bearers badly, it is kind of overshadowed by the fact that Barnabas's plans for Valisthea involve the annihilation of all of the population for Ultima's return. Within the Iron Kingdoms, bearers, dominant specifically, are typically sent to war to make better use of their magical abilities, but even then they are used as nothing more than cannon fodder for their own soldiers. It is also around this time that the kingdoms are at war because of the power gap that was created after the fall of the Northern Territories and the expansion of the Blight, as well as the fall of the Kingdom of Rosaria. Speaking of, it is the Kingdom of Rosaria where the lives of bearers are slightly improved, with Elwyn Rosfield attempting to give them a haven where they can be free of total persecution. Unfortunately, it's hard to break the status quo that has been set for nearly 1,000 years just through the actions of one kingdom, but still, I appreciated the attempt. Something that was impactful about this is by how much we saw the depth in which the bearers were treated. Many of the various side quests during the event of the game saw us experience some of the harsh treatment they went through, from being scolded for not healing fast enough, to challenging Clive for even being one or being associated with a bearer, who is ironically a bearer himself due to his status as dominant, to even some bearers being treated as playthings by children. I think this type of status quo really impacted us emotionally because of how realistic these depictions are throughout the game. In fact, we've seen how far it has affected the bearers throughout the years, with many of them having to live on the outskirts of major cities, often being under attack anyway just to be destroyed with no regard. In fact, it has become the societal norm that bearers are always persecuted wherever they go, that some of them have even accepted their fate. We know our main characters are on a quest to not just stop Ultima, but also make the lives of the bearers better in society. But they have been met with scorn since all of the bearers want is a normal life, something that Clive understands despite Jill's confusion to their reactions when they try to save them. Another piece of evidence of the bearer's status in society is the mark on their face. When bearers are born, they are immediately identified and branded, which is another status they are known for, and they are marked with a tattoo on their face. However, this tattoo is imbued with a poisonous ink. If the bearer attempts to remove the brand, the poison will spread to their body, killing them. In fact, it's already quite sad when you know of the lore behind the bearers and how their magical abilities are not the gift that it was first deemed to be. When a bearer uses their magical abilities, it uses up their life energies in the process. If a bearer uses too much of it, they are subjected to the crystal's curse, which dries up their life force and turns them into stone. While there are some bearers that don't reveal their abilities right away, it will still be very difficult to conceal their powers throughout their life, and very few can get away with it. But even if they manage to evade the persecution from society, it is likely that they will fall to the crystal's curse in the end. This was one of Final Fantasy XVI's strength when it came to its lore and how it was able to portray the bearers and how they were treated in Valisthea. When Clive was able to defeat Ultima and the other dominants that sought to take over and create a new world, the life of the bearers were made much better considering the use of magic was pretty much removed from New Valisthea. I think there are plenty of topics we can cover in the world of Final Fantasy XVI. I know my channel has been mostly Final Fantasies X, 12, and 7 up until this point, but I think being able to explore the other worlds of the Final Fantasy franchises gives us many opportunities to explore different aspects of life and how the events of the games affect the overall statuses of the worlds and the people that live in it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel, and comment on what other topics from Final Fantasy XVI or other Final Fantasy games you want to see in the future. Other than that, this is Enzo signing out, and I will see you all soon.